Now I have to learn how to, okay, I think we're good.
Yep.
Wow, okay, so, this is, I was thinking about like how I wanted to talk and how I wanted to open. What I realized was the word summit has taken on a whole new meaning for me, and it's something kind of associated with very steep cliffs that you climb very quickly with a lot on your back. And for Jeffro and I and for Lu Chen, we have been working hard to make this possible. But I really, what I want to start with is gratitude. I want to thank Olivier and RTE, Lu Chen, Gabriel, all the various different teams. Thank you infinitely for all that you have done and given to make possible LF Energy. And I want to thank Dan and Cheryl from Cloud Native Computing Foundation. CNCF is one of the largest projects at the Linux Foundation, and I think that probably all of you use in various different ways. You use cloud computing, and or you are thinking about cloud computing. And it was really through Dan's help and encouragement, he and I try to meet about once a month. And he has been immensely helpful in guiding how we organize and come together as a community. And then we have NREL. Debbie Broke-Gillis has not been able to meet us. She is the PI who is leading the Open Energy Data Initiative. And so on behalf of NREL, which is a national lab, I would like to welcome and thank Harry Bergman from the Department of Energy, who funds the labs for making OEDI possible and for making this summit possible. And then from Vanderbilt University, I want to thank Gabor Karsai. I don't know where you are, Gabor. Somewhere, there you are. So I want to thank Gabor. Gabor was the PI on REAPS and continues to show up over and over and over again to help us. And Vanderbilt contributed also to making this summit possible. And then finally, Ken Delaney from North Carolina State University and the Freedom System Center. So Freedom is a great name, and they have been a wonderful partner and have supported us, whether it was at Distributech or here. And so it is with a lot of gratitude that I thank you, I thank Gabor, I thank the Department of Energy, and I thank Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So, you know, this, how do I make this run? I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be able to scroll the notes, okay. So it was funny, like putting together this presentation. I had a lot of resistance around it. And I think part of it is that I really wanted to be able to talk with people. And I didn't want to be hiding behind slides. I feel like I have talked with almost everyone here, and if I didn't talk with you, I talked with your colleagues, and if not your colleagues, your boss. And I think that that's how many of you got here. And it is a great, I believe we're beginning on a great journey. And so having us here and starting and really defining, you know, kind of what LF Energy is and how we're going to move forward and how we're going to build the digital foundations from the future grid. I believe the people in this room have an enormous amount to contribute to make that possible. So you know how it is when you're giving a party, you spend all your time to prepare for your party, and then all your guests arrive and you're like, I don't have all that together. So, okay, I also want to really thank the Linux Foundation, because there is no way that LF Energy could exist if it wasn't for the Linux Foundation. And And towards that end, I want to thank Nitya Ruff. Where are you, Nitya? Nitya wears two hats here. And one is that she is the chair of the board of the Linux Foundation. And the second hat she wears is the head of open source for Comcast. And Comcast is a cable company. And so Nitya has an enormous amount to offer, both in terms of understanding the implementation of open source and also understanding the gifts and the possibilities of the Linux Foundation. I want to thank Mike Dolan, who has been my intrepid partner, and in terms of the conversations that we all started with about 3 years ago. And so thank you, Mike. Mike, not only was he at Open Source Summit in Lyon, but he had to go home to the United States and then fly back here. So he gets some kind of merit pen. I'm not sure what it is. And his carbon will be offset, I assure you. And I would like to thank my program manager, Jeff Osier-Mixon, who really, I could not do what I do without you in terms of your ability to help navigate the Linux Foundation for LF Energy. And Shane Coughlin, and I want to thank Shane. Shane lives in Japan, but was at the OSS EU and is on his way to Berlin. Is that approximately right? Okay. Shane has a similar role to me, but with the OpenChain project. And so he is going to talk with us about OpenChain, which I believe will actually be incredibly important when thinking about sort of the supply chain within an energy context and the role of digitalization in that. So, while not living inside of the Linux Foundation, I also really want to thank another group. There are probably about 50 or so program managers on the planet for open source that have a level of expertise and understanding of how open source works and how to transform industries. And we happen to have a remarkable number of them here. So like when I was thinking about doing a summit and why to do the summit, part of it is about the projects and is really around wanting to create the space for the projects. But the other part that I think is perhaps even more important in terms of the design of the day is very much how today is going to work and how tomorrow will work, is related to the transfer of knowledge with regards to open source. What are the best ways to actually manage open source? What are the best ways to manage projects? So those folks, Denise Cooper, who you met up there, Stephen Wally, I don't know where Stephen is. Stephen Wally is right there. Guy Martin is right there. And the three of them will be able to tell their stories, I think, in a really remarkable sort of way. And joining them on a panel that we're going to do a little bit later is also going to be Neil Gerber from IBM, who is a general member and is our representative of the general members to the governing board. And so Neil is going to also talk, and John Jordan from the CIO's office in the British Columbia. And the maintainer of the Ares Hyperledger project. And he is here because he is working on the whole notion of trust and digital trust. And I think that that will become increasingly important. And there is a great project that we're hoping will be happening in the next few months that maybe we'll be able to talk about. Let's see. And also, I would like to also thank Ibrahim Haddad, who's not here, but whose materials definitely can be seen through everything. And if you're looking for materials and you look up Ibrahim's name, you will see infinite amount about how to manage open source. I think he's one of the great scholars. And then there are the members. And so I was wondering if all of the members would stand up. Thank you. I know that some people came from far and wide. I know Matt Golding came from California, and Matt will be able to share tomorrow about OpenE Meter and talking about flexibility services. And Rob Glasgow came from Monash, came from Australia. And then, so I think that, and I know that there are a number of other people who had really considerable travel, but I thank you all for your support, and thank you for showing up. So, you know, who else is in the room here? There are other operators in the room, and so I was wondering, if you're an operator, would you, not a member, would you raise your hand? So we have EDF, StatNet, who else? Call out. Well, you're more in the Florence School of Regulation, no? Yeah, the two of you. That's great. I'm really glad that you're here. MHP. MHP. FinGrid. Others? So I think that we have a group of about 10 different utilities, and then I'm very happy and welcome, really with a warm heart. I believe that there are 2 developers from the Center of Excellence for Blockchain for Shell. And are you in the room? Welcome. I'm happy you joined us. And then there are suppliers and vendors and OEMs, Siemens, ABB, Schneider Electric, GE. I'm so, did I forget anybody? Wind River. Yeah, I'm very happy that all of you are here. And then there's also folks from IOTA. Are the folks from IOTA here yet? Well, they'll be joining us. The City of Paris. I'm so happy to meet you. And Yele. Yele here. Hello and welcome. So what my fondest hope is that you all will reach out to each other. I know that a lot of times we get behind our devices, we have social anxiety, we don't talk. But really, this will be successful if you can fight that. So, you know, I wanted to start, I am actually kind of concerned about time, so I'm probably going to end more quickly. But I wanted to start with this, and this actually was the opening line to my PhD dissertation. And for me, it really caused me to think in new and important ways, which is the recognition that the future doesn't happen everywhere all at once, all at the same time. And the implications of that are that we have the ability to influence the outcomes of the future. And so it is really important what we do here and how we do it, because we have a very big job in front of us. And as a resident of Sonoma County, and as somebody who was evacuated for 5 days and who lost an entire year's worth of tomato sauce and all of my strawberries from my freezers because I had no electricity for 5 days, I can tell you that it's actually quite scary to have your life turned on its edge when you don't have electricity, or when your grid goes down, or if you are in a frightening and terrifying experience. And what I recognize is that, this is something that California is going to go through, and I am very hopeful that we're going to be able to get through this, and that in the process of doing that, I think that we will actually drive new innovation in mini-grids and microgrids and nanogrids. And so we just never know when bad things happen to us if they aren't actually doorways into new futures that are important. So I wanted to start with that and to recognize that we are creating the future together. But I also want to share something sober with you, which is, this was last week's part per million. This is this week's. So why do I think that's happened? I think it's probably the fires. The fires all over the world. It's not just in California. But that literally, those 3 degrees happened in the course of a week. And I think that it's important to recognize that this is what we're fighting. And it's, I say it because I think that it's important to understand where we are now so that we can figure out how to get to where we need to go. The reason why I am so hopeful is that if 94% of the reduction in CO2 emissions is going to come from electrification and of both our transportation and our grids, then I think that we are in a really important position to be able to do that, to drive that. Because these are the folks that really need us to be doing something different. So the world around energy has changed, and I think that I'm going to leave my presentation at this because I don't want to throw us off, and there's a lot of things. But I do want to tell you a little bit about what the structure of the day is. So there are going to be a series of keynotes for the next few hours, and then we're going to end with the high-level architecture. There's a group of architects that worked over the course of the summer to really begin to build out the high-level architecture. And so we're gonna do that before we break for the day. And before we do that, I'm going to give Lanneke Dressen a few minutes to talk. She's coming from Elad in the Netherlands, and that is an initiative of the utilities in the Netherlands around electric mobility. And one of my great hopes is that in the next year that we will have an electric mobility project, and I personally would like them to be our partner. So, so I wanted her to come and speak and say hi. And then let's see. Okay, so then we're going to do the highlight, and then we're going to go to the Paris Aquarium. And there will be full meal, alcohol, and jellyfish. You don't have to eat them. But I wanted to go to a planetarium, but we couldn't get that. So we went from the skies into the seas. And so I'm hoping that that will be a good place in a way that we can all be talking to each other, because there's a lot we need to talk about. I see so many projects coming to fruition in the next period of time. Tomorrow, we're going to then spend, I think, the first 2.5 hours from 9 until 11 something is going to be what I have termed the Better Together variety show. And that is going to be a whole group of all the folks who are community managers are going to come together and really take us through, in record time, kind of the absolutely best practices. And I did forget that this afternoon there actually is going to be a whole series of case studies in which folks are going to get to talk about their companies. So, you know, from my perspective, what I really wanted to make sure that everybody walked out with is that they really understood open source, they understood the implications for their companies and their businesses, they understood the strategic value, that they understood that there's an opportunity here to go fast. But first we must learn to come together in order to be able to do that. And then we're going to do projects. And so all of the projects are going to have about 15, 20 minutes to stand up, to talk about what they're doing, and to be able to see what they're doing in context of the high-level architecture. Then we're going to have a view from the operators, in which the operators are going to talk to us about sort of their journeys with open source. From a strategy perspective, yes, I am from California. Yes, I spend a lot of time in Europe. Yes, I think that there's a great opportunity that Europe has for being able to bring the world together. And no, I don't think that the United States is going to do it. So I'm here. And that's a whole other story. And then we're going to have champagne, and then it'll be over. So I'm gonna pass it off to Olivier, and then after that is Mechthild Vorsdorfer. There's Mechthild. And then we're going to have a group kind of really on the open source side. And so what I'm hoping is that you know, you all will really hold the space around energy and around your visions. And then after that really will be opening the doors up to open source and really talking about how to do it, and everything from intellectual property to supply chains to inner sourcing. So that's kind of the structure of the day. And thank you very much.